This episode was recorded with one or more guests in person. Everyone involved in the making of this podcast and our guests are fully vaccinated and boosted. We take all COVID-19 protocols very seriously. If you or anyone you know are not vaccinated, we strongly urge you to get the vaccine. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy the podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 5th episode of the Not Ready to Grow Up podcast. I'm your host, Chris, and today I'm joined by my two fellow hosts,
Omnia
and Menna.
And today we have a very special guest.
Highly anticipated guest.
Highly anticipated, for sure. Our first...
I fangirled over her on the first episode.
That is true, if you listen to the first episode.
I did.
We have the first unofficially official guest on the podcast, if you don't count Jack and Jason, my sister, Rachel Robey.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, we are very excited to have Rachel. She is...
I'm excited to be here.
Yes, she is. We're very excited to have you on.
Mm-hmm. Especially after I heard on the first episode that I'm the coolest person you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
See, here's what's funny about that is I told Jason to cut that out.
After I was almost about to be like, oh, I don't want to listen to this episode anymore. And then I heard that and I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to keep listening. I'm just kidding. I wasn't going to listen either way.
What?
I was going to listen
I thought you said you weren't. I was like, okay.
Another sibling squabble. Ours was on the last episode.
Oh my goodness.
Unfortunately, Jack and Jason are not with us. They are moving.
Oh my god,
school.
that's not like they died.
Unfortunately, they've gone to a better place. College.
Yeah.
Jack and Jason are no longer with us in Frederick.
They are currently getting their education.
Yes. They're learning themselves a thing or two.
They're listening to this, editing it for us.
Yes.
Here with us in spirit.
Jason
can cut yourself in going, hello.
Jason just cuts himself in saying, hey, what's up? It's Freddie Benson. You like my Jason impression?
That was really hot.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
It's very solid. We should bring Elmo. I know you can do Elmo.
Oh, we're not going to do Elmo.
Why not?
Before we record,
we did it last episode.
Before we started recording, we were making fun of Chris's British accent.
Everyone's making fun of my British accent.
Mm-hmm. I was telling them
I watch a lot of Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm. I was telling them how you'd like to bring the British accent out when you want a favor from me.
So, Rachel, we're really excited to have you on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, since you are the most adulting adult out of all of us?
I am the most adulting adult. I am a 33-year-old independent woman.
Damn, you're 33? That's
Are
not
you
old.
serious?
I thought you were 28.
Thank you.
Wait.
Yeah.
Pause.
For reals. 33. I was born in 88. Shout out to the 80s babies. Woo!
Millennial gang.
I know. I'm technically... Am I a millennial?
I think so.
And you guys are
You're not a boomer.
No. That's like...
Oh my
that's
god,
mom.
she'd be like...
That's like our mom's age.
Old.
Yeah.
I know.
Like,
Don't call her old.
I'd be like geriatric. I'm not geriatric yet. And you
I
guys
heard
are
the
the
reason you were going up the stairs the other day. You were like, oh, my back.
No, you hear my knees click. Click, click, click.
No, I think we're Gen Z.
You're Gen Z, right?
Gen Z.
Okay. So you're Gen Z. I'm a millennial. Right.
Yeah.
I don't feel millennial. I feel...
You feel young.
I don't want to just put myself in a box, like a box and that's labeled a millennial. I'm just a me.
Yeah.
I'm just a me out here in these streets.
So quirky.
But yeah, what do I say? Okay, I'm 33. I got married last year in September of 2020.
Fun fact, Omnia was at the wedding.
Everyone thought I was Chris's date.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I still get questions about that randomly. Like if something about like the wedding comes up, they're like, "Oh yeah, is Chris still dating that girl?" And I'm like, "Who? The one at the wedding?" I was like, "That's like his best friend.
Yeah.
He dates Emily." They're like, "Oh, that's the one like on his Snap story." I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
No, he's dating 2 girls actually. That was like literally. That was like before you met her, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I hadn't even met Emily yet,
yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Because I think it was like a couple months later, like 2 months.
I met Emily on Halloween, and the wedding was on September 11th?
September 12th.
12th, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. We had to plan and replan that like 3 times because it was like right during COVID. I remember when COVID first started being talked about in March, and we were like, oh, it'll be fine in a month. And then, oh, it'll be fine by summertime. And me, I'm type A, like very planner, OCD. I like things in order. And so by like the third round of like replanning and like moving it outside and cutting our guest list in half, I was like, whatever, as long as we can just like get married. Plus it was crazy. We lost our grandfather like less than
Pretty
10 days
much
before that.
Exactly a week before.
Mm-hmm.
He died on September 3rd.
I found out I was pregnant the day after he passed away. The day before he passed away. You're right. So it was a lot. It was COVID. I was pregnant. We were like grieving, but it was like supposed to be a really happy time. So it was crazy.
And he was also supposed to walk Rachel down the aisle, but then that job was passed down to me.
It was. You took that on. You did really good though.
Dude, I almost cried.
I was like freaking out.
Dude, I was so nervous. I was like standing with all the groomsmen. The groomsmen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. I was standing with all of them, and then Sonny was like, go. And I was like, oh. So I speed walked down the center aisle into the little like basement area before you come out into where
because you had to walk. You walked down with the bridesmaid, and then you were supposed to circle back around to come and get me.
Yeah.
So
and then I walked in, and Rachel was like holding the flowers, and you looked awesome, and she was crying, and I was like,
well, yes, because my maid of honor had a really cool like brooch pin made that had a picture of my grandfather and me on it, and that went on my bouquet. So of course, like, it's everything. You're like standing there about to walk down the aisle, the song that was playing, I see the brooch, my brother's coming to walk me down. I like lost it, and I was like, oh my gosh, my makeup. Like
I remember because I remember the week before, Chris was like, guys, I don't know if you guys can make it because of like COVID and stuff. And we were like, oh, it's okay. Like we'll like be there in spirit. Like we were just like, just as long as Rachel has her day. And then Chris texted me, he's like, hey, you can actually come to both like was the reception,
the ceremony, and the reception. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I went to the ceremony, and I was like, this is gonna be weird. It's outside, and it's like it was that in between temperature of like not too hot but not too cold.
Yes.
And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, what is this gonna be like? Because of like COVID, and I wasn't sure. And I had the little cool Rachel and Sunny mask on, and the sunglasses. I took all the stuff. My brother wore those sunglasses for like a couple weeks before our dogs chewed it. But I remember like he used it for quite a bit.
I was so excited to have like all our little goodies to give away. But I mean, how weird was that? Like we had to actually plan to like have face masks made as like giveaways for the guests.
Yeah.
And I had my
cool though.
Yeah, but then we had them also for the groomsmen and the brides and the bridesmaids. I had like a lace like face mask that I really thought I was going to wear the whole time, but I really didn't end up wearing it. But we had a small wedding. I was like,
there was not that
people
many
there. Yeah.
And like
nobody got COVID either, which was
Chris
huge.
was like really good about it because like he was telling us that like majority of the people either like got tested or like are in the process of like getting vaccinated or something. So like it wasn't like everybody there was exposed, and like I think a lot of people do this thing where before there's like a big event, they like isolate themselves beforehand.
Yeah.
So I think everyone was pretty cautious about that. And Chris already knew that I wasn't doing anything except going to work and school. So I was already pretty like cut off from the rest of the world.
Dave's schedule is school, work, Netflix.
Literally.
That sounds awesome.
But fun fact, also when we were at the what's it called? The recession?
Reception.
Oh gosh.
Oh my god. Reception.
School starts in 2 weeks. The reception, it was like 7:00 and it was still light out because this is like early September. I was like, I'm gonna call Jack and Jason because where we were having the wedding, Jack and Jason literally lived like a 2-minute drive away. So I FaceTime them like, yo, you guys want to come to the reception? And they were like, yeah. So they got dressed and they just showed up. And it was.
You had asked me, and I said that was fine. The only reason that they couldn't come for the whole thing is because for a wedding, we had like literally enough, like only a certain amount of chairs. Like you're only paying for weddings are so
and like with like everything that was happening, it just had to be like numbered down to a certain amount.
I know. I had to like actually uninvite people, which wasn't as awkward as you would think it would be because like obviously there was a global pandemic going on, so people were understanding. But yeah, all of our invitations and stuff went out, and we were like, oh, it's gonna be fine. And then we're like, oh my god, it's not fine. So we had to like very politely uninvite people.
Low key, we're not super chill, so I'm gonna have to ask you to not come to my wedding.
Right? That was like, you didn't make the A-list. I'm sorry. But
I remember there, and like I'm not much of a crier for like when I see things like I cry in private because emotionally traumatized. But other than that, like I just don't.
Aren't we all?
But I was sitting there. I was like, about to start crying. I was like, this is like so sweet. And I already knew what was going on because like Chris had talked to all of us about everything. So I was like, this is so cute.
I think the hardest part of the wedding, or not even the ceremony, was when we got to where we were holding the reception, and then Rachel read the poem. That this is so weird for me to think about. So my grandpa in his filing cabinet had a poem that he wanted us to read once he passed away. So
he had gone to a funeral previously for somebody, and that poem was written there, and he liked it so much that he had, I don't know if he found it on the internet or typed it up himself and put it in his stuff. And when I guess Glennis and Monica were going through his stuff, they found it. Yeah. And it just was like very short and sweet. It's titled
Miss Me But Let Me Go.
Yeah, Remember Me But Let Me Go. Miss Me But Let Me Go?
It's Miss Me, yeah. Where is it?
It's on the fridge. That makes sense. Yeah. Miss Me But Let Me Go. Yeah. Okay. I
can't
believe I forgot the title.
And then you read it at the reception, and I was ready to like step in because I was trying so hard not to cry, and then
that was hard.
I was like, if you need me to read it, I can read it.
Yeah.
Rachel was like sobbing, and then we scattered his ashes at the reception. So
I think almost everybody came up to me at some point, either during or after the wedding, and said that they had cried at like one point or another, and I was like, thank you. I'm sorry. Like if they cried during the ceremony, it was because like they felt like it was like a beautiful moment. But then if they cried at the reception, I felt like it was like because like I made it sad, and I was like, I'm sorry. But
I also think it was like kind of during everything that was going on, and for you guys, and also like the global pandemic, it was also the way it was happening, especially at a wedding. It made it more like positive. So like it didn't feel like a funeral. It felt like a wedding and a celebration of somebody's life, right? Which was why I think a lot of people got emotional.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then after that, we just like partied and like danced our ass off.
Oh my gosh,
that
was so fun.
It's so funny in the slideshow that the photographer took. We'd be going through and seeing all this family, and then there's just a picture in the middle of Jack doing the worm.
Oh yeah,
out of nowhere.
It's our favorite picture ever.
Yeah, we had a great DJ. That was a lot of fun, and I remember actually being like mad but also excited that like I couldn't drink at my own wedding because like I was super like I vetted so many bartenders and stuff, and like we found like this awesome like married couple. Actually they're not married, I think they're just like extended relationship, but they were amazing and like super fun and cool, and I was like, oh man, you guys are gonna make the wedding so cool, like I can't wait to like drink and like have so much fun. And then finding out that I was pregnant like a week and a half before, I was like, I can't drink at my own wedding. I remember like at the time thinking like I was so mad about that. I was like, that's so petty, like who cares? I'm pregnant.
Well, it makes sense though.
But I don't think anybody noticed.
Because I actually had to tell her. It was so weird. Like I barely told anybody when I was first pregnant because it's just a thing. You don't usually tell people until you're sure 3 months in. But the most random people I had to tell like up until that week, like a couple days before I was supposed to get like a spray tan. And I was like, oh crap. And so like I told like the girl who does my spray tans because I wanted to make sure that wasn't going to like harm me or anything. And then I had to tell my bridesmaids, and I went and got our nails and our toes done. And the woman there who was doing it was serving us mimosas and stuff. So my girlfriend brought like my best friend who knew I was pregnant, Lisa, brought like a non-alcoholic champagne. So I had to make sure and tell like the nail tech, like, okay, you have to pour me this one. And then I had to do the same thing with the bartender. Like, okay, you have to pour me like just mocktails all night. So like the people that like I wasn't closest to at all were like finding out that I was pregnant. It was like super weird, but it was also cool because like I didn't forget anything that happened on my wedding night. Mm-hmm. Like, I still got to party. And like, I think when you go to a party and like see it through sober eyes, when like people around you are, drunk and having fun, it's so different.
That's
and
what I'm saying.
Yeah. And it's still a lot of fun. Like, I don't know why it's, and when leading up to it, I was like, oh man, I'm not going to have as much fun. I think I had more fun, because I could just totally experience it and remember everything with like sober eyes.
So would you say, I know that this is a problem that all of us experienced in high school, but would you say that was there less peer pressure when you were in high school to drink at parties, or do you think there was more?
I don't know if I would say it was like more or less. I really think it has to do with your own, how you feel like confident wise. So in high school, I definitely didn't have the same confidence that I did after high school. So I didn't necessarily feel peer pressured, like, here, drink this beer, drink this, drink this alcohol. It was more like everyone else was doing it. So I did it too, to kind of like fit in, but I didn't feel like if I didn't, I was going to be made fun of necessarily. Right. But in high school, like when I was in high school and we literally like pour cups of just like straight vodka and just like plug our nose and like down it just to get drunk. It's totally different drinking in high school for me anyway. I think nowadays, and maybe like also where we live. Like, I feel like people in this neighborhood, we live in slightly like, upper class, slightly elitist type of neighborhood. Like, maybe kids in this neighborhood drink like, finer drinks that, taste better. But I remember when I was in high school, it was just crappy. We just drank to get drunk because that's what everybody did.
In the first episode, Chris said you were a wild child.
Yes, he did. Okay. So full disclosure, I went to private Catholic school from second grade until 8th grade. But I went to private Catholic school, like literally 300 kids in the whole school from like kindergarten to 8th grade. So like I went to school with like the same 28 kids in my class for years. The uniform, the nuns, the priests, the whole works. So there was a lot of stuff that we did not experience. We didn't experience any drinking or like any drugs of any sort, even skipping school. Like you couldn't, like if I was to like skip a class, they'd probably call the police because there'd be one person out of 28 missing. Like you don't just go unnoticed. So when a lot of my friends and peers were going to private high school, but that wasn't in the books. It's very expensive to go to a private high school. So I went to a public high school. I remember at first being like kind of nervous because of how big it was and like just all the unknowns but also so excited. Like I was also going into high school with my best friend at the time, Kim. Her brother was a year older. He was on the football team. He was like, quote unquote, one of the popular kids. So we knew that we'd be able to like go in and like kind of go under his wing to an extent, and have like these set group of like cool kids that we would already know. But looking back now, I still talk to and love a lot of those people that I met, but it was not necessarily like the cool group. We really got sucked into a kind of a scarier, slightly dangerous, lots of illegal activity type of group stuff that would, take place. Anything from as little as underage drinking, not that I would necessarily be involved in, but a lot of people that I surrounded myself with did a lot of, robbing people, a lot of, like I would say, illegal activity. There were gangs that they were in, not like the big gangs that you would hear about.
Like the petty gangs.
Kind of like the cool thing to kind of be a part of this very dangerous type of group. And I think I even look back now and I have a lot of regret to an extent of some of the decisions that I made when I was in high school. But I also know that it opened my eyes to a lot of, things that I don't think Olivia, my daughter, will ever be able to get over on me. Things that unfortunately I was able to kind of get over on my mom because I think she had a lot of faith in me for like always being this like honor roll student. It's almost like I lived like these two lives. Plus, Chris, you were a baby when I was going into high school. We have a 14-year difference. So I was a freshman when you were literally an infant. So all the attention was on you. And I was kind of able to slide through and do, I remember still when mom and your dad took you to Pennsylvania for a weekend when I think I was a freshman or a sophomore. And we threw 2 back-to-back house parties.
Bangers.
Me and Kim. Yeah. Like we couldn't just be okay with like the first night, like we had like a crazy house party. I still remember this like really old 30-some-year-old dude that like showed up with all the alcohol because someone had to connect to him. And I look back now and I'm like, that's so creepy and weird that like this like mid-30s dude hanging out with like a bunch of high school teenagers. And like he brought all the alcohol and like I just remember like now I have like a flash, like when you guys get older, you're going to realize that like you don't remember everything, like even from high school, even as recent as high school is now. I remember like parts and flashes, and I swear it's not from like the drugs that I did. But I have this memory of like all this alcohol in the kitchen and like people like making out on couches, like stuff you see on like high school movies. And I'm like, oh shit, I think I'm in over a little bit over my head.
Wait, was this at like the old house?
Yeah, on Cliff Top.
It's very different now.
It is. Like you're saying all this now is very, you go here, you're bound to go D1.
Yeah, they're all
they're half their football team are D1 athletes.
Insanely good track team too.
Yeah, like all their athletes in general are D1 or like perceived D1.
Yeah.
Right. Like
and
their sports are insane. Their town is rich people.
Yes.
They go to private school also, like private like elementary and middle school, and then they end up where they go
and see that's not how it was when I was there. When I was there back 15 years ago, literally like there was like, I don't know if they still have, we had like 4 or 5 security guards in our school. We had cameras posted everywhere. There was people being arrested like on a weekly basis. Fights were crazy. Like, we had the those like little like green electrical boxes that you'll see like sometimes in neighborhoods. There was like, it was called like the smokers corner, literally right across the street from the high school, where everybody hung out and either smoked your cigarettes or whatever you were smoking before you went into school. And I mean, it was, all the athletes were also doing, engaging in, not all of them, I can't speak for all the athletes, but I do know a lot of the football players from there that were just, not necessarily doing all the best things that would have led them into like a D1 position. However, we did always have a phenomenal football team. Like they, and one of my good friends, Dueno, who was our DJ, he was a phenomenal football player. And I think he went and played for college somewhere. So yeah, but it's funny though, how it's changed, because it's come up a lot. The area around it was not how it is now. It's crazy now looking back, like how I can totally admit, like, I thought that was like so cool to like hang with those people that were like just so wanted to be hardcore, or really were hardcore. Like, I mean, I went to school with a lot of people that had been arrested or are even done like really short little stints in jail. I, after high school, was that person that was like following my friends and showing up at jail to visit them, or like sending commissary money, or, being there to like help them get lawyers and stuff like that, because they were on their second, third, fourth, fifth trial.
I didn't even know this.
Yeah. There was a guy that I dated previously that you were so young. It was,
I remember like 2 guys.
He was not a great person. I will keep the names, but not a great person. And I knew this, and he was like this, up and coming rapper and everything.
No, the DMV rapper.
Yes. Yeah. No. I think he's still up and coming. I don't think he ever actually came all the way up. So,
Wait.
Yeah. And I remember we were on 270 coming this way to come to our house, our old house. And we got pulled over by about 4 or 5 undercover cops in like, literally like undercover. I'm talking like a Honda Civic, a CRV, like a pickup truck. And I was like, what is going on? Like, cause I saw it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, prime time traffic. So we're like bumper to bumper. And I start seeing these cars right down the shoulder. I'm like, oh, they're going to get in trouble trying to ride down the shoulder. And then all of a sudden they stop. Like, one's behind me, the car in front of me, like T-bones, not the car, but like, curves off so that we can't move. All of a sudden we're off on the shoulder, and we're like surrounded by cops with guns drawn. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm looking over at this guy like, what do you have me involved in? So they were only after him. Thank goodness. I was able to be let go.
Can you share what he did?
So it's funny. I never understand this now. Even with, and I was talking to Sonny, my husband is a corrections officer. He's a deputy for a jail now. And I've asked him these questions, but when things like that are happening, they won't tell you what the charges are on the scene. So they did pull me out of the car, not aggressively, but I did have to be searched and everything. Your dad was driving home at the same time, pulled over ahead to ask me if everything was okay. They didn't really want him to get close.
Wait, he passed you?
He saw everything that was going on.
What are the odds of that?
We both traveled home from 270 every day. But yeah, what are the odds? So no, they took him. They wouldn't tell me anything. And I was, that ride or die girlfriend. So I was like, giving all this attitude to the cops, like, well, I'm going to come down to the station then and find out what's going on. Like, how stupid was I? And I did. And it was attempted murder. That's what? Yeah. So, and I'm, no way, he didn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And it was bad because he was kind of living with us at the time. He would stay there a lot. And so they had to come and search the house. And I was, I could be either amicable and agree to it and let them in, or they would come in the middle of the night with SWAT to let him in. No.
Oh, okay.
No. Chris was asking me on the side for someone. So yeah, they came, and I was still like such an asshole when they got there. Like, well, you're not going to find anything anyways. And I remember Mom and your dad were like in the kitchen, like, Rachel, you better shut the hell up and do whatever they say. So yeah. And even then, that wasn't like a straight up come to Jesus moment. I actually like stuck through. I helped find him like a lawyer. He did get off.
When he got off, he released his freshman album, Under Pressure.
Right. I didn't date him long after that, though. We still dated for a short period of time after that.
And then mom beat you up, and then you decided to break up with him.
I just don't know. Like, I had a lot of self-confidence issues, though, going through high school. I was not in high school, but like after high school when I stopped playing sports and stuff and like didn't really go straight into college. I went and took like the work life. I had some, self-confidence issues. I was overweight. I was, didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. And I just dated trash because I was like, well, like this guy really likes me, whatever. And I did a lot of stupid things. So God, I totally forgot about that too.
Damn.
Yeah. Cause
I didn't even know that. Cause I've heard like, you shared with me some stories, but I never knew about that. That's
just
crazy.
One. Yeah. There's some stuff I probably won't share live on the air for everybody, but we can talk about later. But
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, who's starting?
You can.
I start? Okay. Oh, so, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question is, so you have a daughter.
I do.
How old is she?
Yeah, how old is she?
She's 8 months. I remember.
Good. She's 8 months. She's
gorgeous.
like 8 months and a week, and I just took her 8-month pictures today.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's so cute. Oh my God, the prettiest blues. Eyes.
Every baby we know will like see a new person and like cry, but then like after they cry, they're like, I just wanted to see that you could tolerate my screaming and that I like you. Like that's every baby we know. But then like when we walked in, she just smiled at us. I was like, oh my God.
She just came down from upstairs. She was like, ah! When she saw you.
She's so cute. Oh my God.
Thanks.
Right.
She's aight.
So my question is, do you feel like the way you're raising Olivia now is a repeat of the way you had to help raise Chris?
Ooh, good question. I would say I don't think it's a repeat because it's definitely different. One, with Chris, God, I was so young because obviously I was 14 when Chris came around and I didn't raise him per se, but like I very much, it's weird when your sibling is 14 years younger than you, you're not like, fighting over toys or anything. It's more of, I did kind of fall into like this mom role with him, but it was also like he was like my fun new toy at the same time. Like I would take him to the mall, like Forest Mall and like walk around with him and I'd like push him in the stroller and like I changed his diaper obviously and all that kind of stuff. But for those first year, especially, I always wanted to hold you and like change you and all that stuff. But being a mom now, I would have said before I had Olivia that I really felt like I helped like really like be like your mom. But then being a mom is the responsibility is like always there. Like right now, Sonny, my husband, is working overnight. So he works from midnight to 8 a.m. So anytime she wakes up in the middle of the night, there's no like rolling over and being like, oh, can you go get her? Or like, whatever. The onus is always on me. Like you are not just a mom, like 9 to 5 or 8 to 12, like you're always, even when you're with them or not with them. And with Chris, like, obviously I didn't want to necessarily be like his mom because I wanted to be like the cool older sister, like someone that he could come to and stuff. And like, I think our relationship changed and grew in so many different directions as you changed and grew. Cause like when you were little, it was like, I was just there to like help you and like kind of teach you little things. And then you went through like that weird, annoying age that all kids go through. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
I felt, in retrospect, I feel so bad. I'm like, she probably hated me.
We all went through that weird. I feel like once it's like 7 to like 11 or something, you're like, just kind of awkward and you're trying to figure yourself out and you're still figuring yourself out way after 11, but you just like, you're easily influenced and stuff.
Like with my sister and I, because I always say that I don't want to have kids because I feel like I've practically helped raise my brother and sister because they're like, Menna's 5 years younger than me and then my brother's 10 years younger than me. So I like saw them grow up. And I always say that like with my sister when she was a baby, was like, I want to play with her. I want to take care of her. I want to give her baths. But then as she got older, I was like, the way her and I, like, especially now, like I started driving when you were in middle school. So that's when we started being more close. When she did have the awkward stage, I was like, get away from me.
That's you and my brother right now.
Yeah. Our brother's 12 and he does the weirdest stuff. And like yesterday I was in my room and you could hear me shouting, shut up. He just is so loud and obnoxious and does weird stuff. And I'm like, you're being gross. You're being weird. You smell like sweat and like, please stop it.
These are like all the same things I say to Flex all the time. My dog, seriously. Like you're gross, you're weird, and you smell. But it's cool. We've definitely gotten closer, I'd say, over the last like 3 years, maybe 3 or 4
Sure.
years. Because I also went through my own weird stage too.
Mhm.
So like, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't want to like hang out or be around me. But now, especially living here, like we are probably the closest we've ever been.
For sure.
But yeah, I would say don't necessarily take yourself out of the mom game just yet. If you decide to never have kids, that's awesome too. But it's totally different raising your own kids because you're in full control. As much help as you did with like Menna and Mac, your parents were still there at the end of the day, like really like laying the law down. Now it's kind of cool because like if I have my mom or my aunt or anything, they want to like put their 2 cents in, which is great. I'm like, okay, yeah, I hear you, but we're gonna do it this way because I'm the mom. So
I think my whole point is like when I have children, all that, I don't want to do some of the things my parents do. So I'm like so excited to raise children. So I'm like, look, you're gonna have fun, but we're gonna have rules.
Oh yeah,
it's really safe fun.
Yes, it's cool. Like that's like being able to like grow up and there's certain things like, okay, I like what my parents did with this. I'll take this, and I definitely didn't like this, so I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
So
that kind of also answered a little bit of my first question, which was because you and Chris have a significant age gap, kind of like how my brother and I do, and like how that influenced your relationship, and like you talked a little bit about that, like
I think it, like I said, it grew and it changed a lot, and I had this vision when I was like, oh, like once he's 18 or he's like at least 16 and I'm however old, 30. I guess. I was like, wait, quick math. That's when it's going to be like really cool, or especially when he like turns 21, we're going to go out to the bars and get drunk together. And like Chris leads a life where like he
slamming beers with the boys.
Yeah. Like he doesn't anticipate drinking like ever. And I think that that's cool. Like you don't know, because I was like, oh, he's going to like all the same things I do. Like I grew up like playing basketball and playing soccer, and like I like this. He's like almost polar opposite of me in so many ways. Like he got all the artistic abilities. Like he can write, he can draw. He's into like Marvel comics where like, I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Like I saw one of the Spider-Mans, I don't know. And he'll like sit here and be like,
real quick,
let me tell you everything about Spider-Man.
She went to see No Way Home with Sonny yesterday. They haven't seen Homecoming or Far From Home.
What? So why did you go? Because I kept hearing it's so good.
It is. I've seen it in theaters 3 times.
We got to the theater early. We sat there. We pulled up a YouTube clip of and we saw like a 5-minute recap, and we were filled in.
Me and Menna are like super Marvel fans.
Our dad grew up like loving the comic books, so
and it influenced me and my brother.
Yeah, so my brothers read the comic books, and I remember we went and saw Iron Man in theaters, and we didn't realize how good it was going to be. So I remember when it came out on DVD, we got it on DVD. So like it's been like drilled in our minds.
Yeah,
like, we're a Marvel family.
So we had brought up like mental health. We usually bring up mental health in our podcast. I want to ask, when did you realize like your mental health was just as important as like any other health in your life?
Good question again. 21. When I was 21 is when I had my first panic attack and didn't know anything. I mean, I think the word anxiety and like OCD and stuff is thrown around so loosely. I only knew of OCD as like, you shut the door 10 times before you or you check the stove 10 times or whatever you see in TVs and movies and stuff, and panic and anxiety, I would throw that word. Oh my God, I'm so anxious about this concert that's coming up or whatever. When I was 21, I had my first real panic attack in a movie theater, and I had no idea what was going on. I thought I was dying. So I did what a lot of people who have their first panic or anxiety attack do. And I went to the hospital, Shady Grove emergency room. And so that I was like, they're going to tell me I'm having a heart attack, or I just had a heart attack, or like something's wrong. I'm going to need surgery, all this stuff. Did the regular like EKG and everything. And I remember feeling like almost really stupid when they came in and they were like, well, you just had like an anxiety attack, or it could have been a panic attack. So, you can stay here until you feel better and then you can go home. And I was like, wait, that's it? I was like, because I'm pretty sure I'm dying or that I died. And so I'm going to need more than that. So
my BPM was just 140.
Yeah. I was like, wait, no, something was weird. So it was around that age that and of course, I anticipated the next one, and I anticipated the next one, and I checked out all the books in the library and, found like, I think that might have been when I had my first therapist, because I was just like, it was such a big deal. I've always been a very self-aware person, and I analyze things that happen to me or around me and stuff, but mental health was just not a thing like that I really paid attention to. It wasn't talked about a lot at home. It wasn't talked about a lot in school. So I would say it was that age that I really became aware of it, that I had a lot of years of working through it, working with it. It's always here. It's ever present. I've been diagnosed with having panic and anxiety, general anxiety disorder with panic disorder with OCD as well. I have a phenomenal therapist. I actually share a therapist with Chris. He referred her. And I've been through a few. Therapists are like, like a good pair of jeans. You have to kind of try them, try on a few to see what you like.
Omnia and I talked about that in episode 2.
Oh, okay. I do have to listen to episode 2. So I think mental health is very important. I think it needs to be talked about more because there are millions of people that deal with it. And and the more I talk about it with friends and family, but primarily friends, almost every single friend that I have deals with some sort of mental health mental health issue or, something. So you can share stories, you can swap stories, you can talk about what works for you, what doesn't work for you. So yeah.
Being that I'm the youngest one here.
Well, Olivia's the youngest one here.
And the youngest one in the room.
Youngest one associated with the podcast.
Exactly. What advice would you give to someone who's about to begin their adult life like me? And would you also want sorry. She's like, would you also want to use the advice you'd also want to use with Olivia while she grows up?
I would definitely say it's easy to give you advice because I can tell that you're a self-aware person. You have a great older sister, and it seems like you have a good surrounding of friends.
I mean, I try.
Try your best not to be easily influenced by everyone around you. Form your own decisions and opinions about people, even when somebody already feeds you an opinion about a situation, a person. That's good for you in school, in work, whatever. A lot of times people like to talk crap about each other, talk crap about people. Oh my God, I can't believe so-and-so is going to be there today. And you might not have never ever met them. You have a, prejudged opinion. So form your own opinions, try not to be easily influenced, and let your voice be heard, because it took until I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s, that I wasn't uncomfortable to say how I really felt. And somebody said something one time that really resonates with me. And I try and use it anytime that I feel like I have something important to say. And it's say what you mean and mean what you say, and don't say it mean. So, and that can go with anything, if you have something to say that's important to you, to somebody whether it's in your family or friend or whatever, and you think, say what you mean what you say, but you don't have to say it mean, don't let your voice be quieted ever, because what you have to say is important. And, just don't be afraid to stand up for what you believe in and how you feel. I think if you can keep that at your core, everything else kind of just comes naturally. So
that's a good one.
I like that. Thanks.
All right, my fun questions.
Ooh.
Well, that's just 2.
Okay.
And only one of them seems fun. So social media is a big part of our lives, unfortunately. And it came into our lives, I think for me, was middle school, high school-ish. So for you, growing up, were you a MySpace or a Facebook person?
Oh, MySpace. I don't even think Facebook was around when I was first growing up.
I don't think I got onto Facebook until I was 12.
Yeah. So definitely MySpace. And before that, God,
AOL.
Predate MySpace was AOL. It was all about the AIM screen names, which I could not remember for the life of mine what it was, but I'm sure it was so corny. I wish I could remember it. I still remember my best friends at the time was XX Baby Fat XX. It was all about the baby fat jeans at those times. So I can't remember what my MySpace name was, but it was chat rooms, which were so dangerous now that I look back at, because there was so many weird, creepy people in there. And the first thing you always said was ASL, age, sex, location.
Yep.
Because that's where, and I was always a 27-year-old female from Texas, because I was never a 13-year-old girl from Maryland. So I was talking to random people. I mean, super dangerous stuff. And then it, graduated to MySpace, and I didn't get into Facebook until, I guess I've been on Facebook for at least 10 years now. But yeah, as a kid, I was a MySpacer. I had my top 5 friends. Don't remember who they were. I spent a lot of time formulating my page and let me tell you, I was really good at some like computer coding because you had to like put in like BR_this to like make your page be formatted a certain way. Like
That's weird.
I learned a lot of stuff.
I learned that on MySpace there was a thing where people could put music on their thing. So every time, you'd enter their like profile, it played music.
Yes, I had Shaka Khan. Ain't nobody like ain't nobody loves me better. Yeah, like, I was like, who am I? Like that's another thing. I tried to find my MySpace like username and password a long time ago so I could log in and find it. It's gone.
Petition to bring MySpace back.
I mean, Justin Timberlake bought it, so he could bring it back if he wanted to.
That
did he really?
Yeah, he bought it like 2 years ago.
Who did?
Oh
Justin Timberlake.
God.
We can always fact check me. I may be wrong. I don't know.
Jack,
we don't have our
Jason.
fact check.
Jack, Jason, are here.
Insert yourself if that's correct.
Right.
Please.
There
And then my last question, which kind of wraps up everything we talked about in a nice tiny little bow. Do you feel like your life now is what you thought it would be when you were our age?
Oh God, no. I thought when I was your age that my grandmother had my mom when she was 25. My mom had me when she was 25. So I was like, ooh, got to carry on the tradition. I thought I was going to like meet the person I was going to be with around like 23. Because remember, I told you I'm type A. I plan everything. I was going to meet him at 23. We were going to 22, 23. We were going to be married for about a year. I was going to have my first kid at 25, maybe another one a year or two later, and then maybe a third if I was really feeling it. No, that didn't happen. I got married at 32, had my daughter at 33, and I don't know if I'm going to have any more kids because on paper, it's like, yeah, get married, have kids. But man, having one kid is a lot.
No, yeah.
Like a lot. Like, and that's the thing is like when I first, and I'll put this out there because this is like real talk. When we first had her for like that first couple weeks, first of all, your hormones are dropping and crazy. You're like, there's potential for you're having baby blues. You're probably having like postpartum, like all this stuff. And like, I was very regretful those first couple of weeks and scared. I was like, what did we do?
Mm-hmm.
One, because we got married having been pregnant, we planned our wedding a year in advance, but we didn't have any time to just be husband and wife without kids. We got married and I was pregnant my whole like first year. And then I had her and I'm like, what if we made a mistake? What if we only had a baby? Because that's what you do. You get up, you grow up, you get married, you have kids. Because if you don't, then it's like, well, why don't you have kids? Oh, do you have a problem having kids? Like, do you not want, and there's always these like questions and stuff. And it's like, then I was like, oh my God, maybe I wasn't supposed to have kids. Like, what did I, and obviously I've graduated from those feelings. I love my daughter. I wouldn't change a thing. But I think I'm okay just having one kid because I know me and coming back to mental health, like there's only so much of me that I can give.
Mm-hmm.
I work a full-time job. I'm also a full-time mom and a full-time wife, and I have to have time for myself too. So I think it's amazing for people that have multiple children and like go you, like that's awesome. And it works for some people, but for me, I think I'm a one kid type of person. And one thing I'll say is don't just grow up and do what you think you're supposed to do. Really find yourself and really know if you're that person that wants to get married, if you're that person that wants to have kids, because if you just do it because you think you're supposed to do it, you're going to end up unhappy and, ruining your own and potentially someone else's life because of it. So I will wrap it up with that. No, I did not think I would be here at this age. I'm happy where I am. I am happy with my super small, close group of friends because I used to be all about like, I got to have 20, 30 friends and you can't keep 20, 30 close friends. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Keep those people that are really like your people close. Everything else can just be acquaintance, just keep the important stuff close and all the other stuff just doesn't matter.
I told you guys she was cool.
Amen, sister.
I'm all right. Yeah, I know a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit here and there.
The cool older sister.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the third episode of the fifth episode.
Third, fifth. He's
Sorry.
lost.
I haven't eaten since like 11 o'clock.
There's one episode where you said the wrong date on it too,
That is
and no
right.
one said anything. We kept it in.
Are you
It's fine.
serious?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to the fifth episode of the Not Ready to Grow Up podcast. Make sure you leave your thoughts if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, or if you follow us on Instagram, or if you're listening on YouTube.
And the tags for Instagram is at Not Ready to Grow, and we just have started our Twitter account, so that one's NRTGU podcast.
We'll add it to the link tree in our Instagram. But
yeah.
Thank you guys so much. We love you. We hope you guys have a great rest of your week.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah.
We have 5 seconds. Say it.
Ready?
Goodbye.
Bye.